Hadassah Treu, you grew up in communist Bulgaria in a time when faith was forbidden. Your grandmother kept a secret copy of the New Testament. Do you remember the first time those forbidden words of faith stirred something in you?
Yes, this was an interesting time. I remember I was going for lunches at my grandma, and usually after lunch I was sitting on her bed and was searching for something to read. And beside her bed there was this small, looking very old book, or even like a booklet, so in this format. And yeah, I was reading. I can't really remember the first time when I was reading, but I love to read the last book of the late I learned the New Testament, and this was Revelation. And I think this vivid images and symbolism, this definitely stirred something in me. Especially, I was drawn to the last chapters when. I read the words about no more tears, no more crying, no more pain, no more suffering. I think this was stirring in me something very deep. So really, a deep longing for another reality, I think. So for another world, for another reality. Yes.
What a time to grow up in. Well, paint
Yes.
us a picture of that world. What did it actually look like to grow up in a family and near a secret church under a regime that forbidden the faith?
Yeah, I was living exactly 15, so I spent 15 years of my life under this regime. So, because in 1989, the communism fell, and at this time I was 15 years old. So let's say I spent my childhood and some parts of my teenage years under this regime. So that's why I think my picture of the world is definitely is different than, for example, if I was a grown up or an adult. But nevertheless. What I remember was this world which was very organized, ordered, and really ruled by rules, by discipline. Especially in school, we had a very strict discipline, and we were obliged to be part of different political youth organizations, starting even from childhood, from first to fourth grade. There was one political organization, then later on there was another political organization, and everybody needed to be part of this. It was obligatory of these organizations, so youth organizations. And I think also atheism was prevailing, because topics like God, religion, and stuff like this was not discussed, not in school, not in the family, no anywhere. Nobody was going to church, so there were buildings of church, because from previous times, but nobody was going to church. And this was one side of my life, so which was the political and social atmosphere. But also I had difficult childhood, because I grew up in a dysfunctional family, because my father had problems with alcohol, and also he was abusive. And let's say this was an atmosphere mainly ruled by fear and violence in my family. And this added up, so let's say, to the whole thing. But of course, I'm sure that there were also, or at least I experienced also some positive things during this time. As I said, everything was predictable, and there was some kind of, I don't know if this was real or false, but some kind of a sense of safety and security. Because, for example, what I mean, everybody had a job. So there was practically no unemployment. So this means that every family had an income. Okay, there were not many things in the shops. Actually, there was not big variety of things, but everybody had, let's say, enough, and there was not this fear to be on the street or to not to have enough money to be without food. But for example, what I mean by that things were not so. That there was not so big variety of goods is, for example, I remember that bananas were quite a luxury goods, and we got bananas only, for example, for New Year, and there were large queues in the
Interesting.
shops. Yeah, and my parents were going to get or were getting these bananas, and this was a big celebration when they came home for New Year with the pub. And yeah, this was interesting. Or for example, clothes. So we were wearing uniforms in the school, and there were not so variety of clothes, like modern clothes, like jeans, like t-shirts, like stuff like this. We wanted, of course, to have modern clothes, but at this time was difficult to get such things in the shops. So also as teenagers, yeah. So these are my memories. Yeah.
That's fascinating. It's a whole different world. And growing
Yes.
up in
Yes.
communist Bulgaria, how aware were you of other countries and how they were operating at the time? Were you very closed off from the operations of other countries?
Yes, we were really closed off because also at this time, as you know, there was no internet. So the only thing we got was on television, radio, and some kind of magazines or books, if of course we got access to such. We were really, I think, cut off. That's why we had this phrase, the Iron Curtain, because we were really behind the Iron Curtain. And we got a lot of information from the USSR at this time. I mean, movies, books, and stuff like this. But I think from the Western world and also from the USA, there was really a minimum information leaking in. For example, I remember as a teenager, but I can't say exactly how old I was, but for example, it was a big celebration if we got somehow these popular magazines, at least this was in Western Germany at this time, called Bravo. So this was for music, for pop bands and stuff like this, pop culture, which was for us extremely fascinating. And it was a big celebration if we got some magazine like this. But definitely we were behind the Iron Curtain. We didn't know how life was outside, let's say, the socialist bloc, because also travels were allowed in the socialist or communist countries. This was not a problem, but I think it was very problematic if a person wanted to travel so in another type of country, like in Western Europe, or I even don't know if then travels were allowed to the USA. I really don't know.
Yeah.
But it was very very difficult. And I remember as a child or teenager, I was, I think, 13 years old, that I had the privilege really to travel outside Bulgaria. But this was only because I was part of the town's choir. So I was singing, and as part of the town's choir, we took part in different kind of festivals or competitions or stuff like this. And once I was traveling with the choir to the Czech Republic. This I will never forget. This was one of my best experiences at this time by plane. This was really a big deal. And once we traveled to Tallinn, so in Estonia. Now this is Estonia, and also we had the chance to spend a few days in St. Petersburg and in Moscow. And these were my travels then as a child. But nevertheless, still the possibility as a 13 years old to get out of Bulgaria, this was something amazing at this time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
really amazing. Yeah.
Well, I love that. I love that so much. Well, you said, of course, a little earlier that it was the book of
Yeah,
Revelation that
yeah,
captured your attention, which
yes,
one fascinates me because it's such a hard book to interpret in some aspects
yes.
of it. Um, well, looking back, what do you think your heart was responding to when you felt so moved, almost to tears, reading Revelation? Take me
Yes.
into that period of your life.
I think that most of all, I was drawn to these last chapters, as I said, and for this painting of a world with God's presence and with the world without tears, suffering, and pain. And I think openly said I didn't understand. Of course, the Book of Revelation. I didn't understand what I was reading. No, I was really discussing this with my grandma. But I simply remembered that this moved something into me, that my heart responded to this, and I think this was simply the longing. So really a very powerful longing. I think now for God's presence, but it was a powerful longing for another world, for another reality, for something which actually I think God placed in each human heart. So for Eden restored, so to say. I think this is anyway our hope, what we are longing for. The moment when everything will become new. By the way, these are really my favorite words in the Bible. I'm renewing everything. So I really love this. This is if I need to summarize my hope in one sentence, this will be this sentence. So this is really what keeps me going. And yeah, I simply remember these were words that I didn't understand, but nevertheless they had an effect on me, or let's say they were seeds that got planted in me, and then later they brought some fruit. Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously.
It sounds very much like a God-given enlightenment right there.
Yes,
Because
yes,
not
yes,
everyone can read and see the value in between all that they don't know. Oftentimes I
yes,
think our minds go to, well, I don't understand this, I don't understand this. And it sounds like you were able to focus on what you did understand and
yes,
that and
yes,
keep that narrow focus on that, which is very powerful and probably very
yes,
God-given. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
yes.
Well, how do you think growing up where your faith was discouraged shaped the way that you value your faith today?
I didn't think so much about this, I need to say, but surely this had influenced me or impacted me in some way. I know, however, that today, or let's say in the last decade, I really think that my faith is my most precious possession. So keeping my faith and growing my faith is really my utmost priority and desire, I need to say, or has become my utmost priority. Perhaps it was not always like this, but at the moment, this I can say honestly. I see really my faith as the center of my life, because my faith represents my relationship with God, and this is the thing which I value the most. And I also think that God sees our faith as something extremely valuable and most precious, because if we only see through the book of Job how Job actually contended for his faith, and he thought and experienced his faith as the most precious thing, and at one point he was willing to die but not to lose his faith in a just and loving God. And we also have in the New Testament, we read in the epistles how God values our faith and how He tests our faith, and that our faith is more precious than gold, and that He tests the genuineness of our faith, the authenticity of our faith. So this means that this is something extremely valuable in His eyes too. And I think if everybody of us keeps this perspective, how our faith is valuable to God. And I think then perhaps we also will place more value on our faith and our everyday, so to say, walk by faith. And yeah,
Yeah, I think this is a struggle for many people,
yeah.
including, I've also had many periods of my life where I've struggled with this, with prioritizing your
Mm-hmm.
faith over all else. And, sometimes it's you're putting your career above it. Sometimes you're putting
Yes.
your relationships above it. And so it doesn't often in the moment feel like you're doing something wrong, by
Mm-hmm.
prioritizing your marriage
Yes.
or prioritizing, your career path. But in the grand scheme of things, when all the worldliness goes away, all
Mm-hmm.
that left is your faith and your
Yes.
relationship with God. That's all that's
Absolutely.
left. That's the only thing that truly, truly, truly matters. And
Yes.
we just get caught up in worldly desires and self desires as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So
To Yeah, everybody goes through this. This is our constant struggle, I think. And this is the part of the growing process. So the more we grow, the more we are able to keep our focus and our priorities straight, and really to follow God more and more. So I mean, with our whole selves. So really to achieve this integrity, because I love really this word, the word integrity. And I think this is what God wants for us, that really every part and every piece of our hearts, of our lives is focused on Him and reflects Him. Yeah.
Well, I want to sidetrack real quick. I think this is a
Yeah.
very beautiful fact that I found out about your name, Hadassah.
Yes.
Um, well, your name carries a beautiful meaning. So Hadassah was Queen Esther's Hebrew name in the Bible,
Yes.
and it means myrtle. And myrtle is an evergreen shrub whose leaves release the sweetest fragrance only when they're crushed. What does your name mean to you, and how has it shaped the way that you see your calling and God's purpose for your life?
Yes. And here I need to reveal, so to say, hidden fact or secret. The secret is that Hadassah and Hadassah Treu actually is a pen name. This is not my real name. This is a pen name I chose when I started my writing and speaking ministry, so about 10 years ago. And that's why I think it even has more meaning for me, because I chose it with God together, to reflect my calling, to reflect my mission, or how I felt about what God was calling me to do. And God talked a lot to me with King Esther and with the name Hadassah. And I love the symbolism, because, as you said, when it's crushed, the flowers gave this fragrance, and they're used in medicine, they're used in the cosmetic. It's a healing shrub, and I think my life, as I see it up to now, expresses this, because I've been crushed multiple times, and surely I came to learn that this crushing was not to destroy me, but really to release a fragrance, or to shape me more in the image of my Savior. And also, I love the symbolism of the shape of the myrtle, so this star shape, because there is a verse in Daniel which somehow really deeply resonated with me. There are some verses when read and you feel that your whole being vibrates with these words, and this is one of these verses in Daniel, where God says that the wise will shine like stars in the sky. And this always moves me, always excites me, because if I have some really longing or desire and some wish, so to say, that I want God to fulfill for me, this would be my wish. I want to be a star in the sky.
Hey, that's
or
a beautiful
shine
wish.
like a star, or shine like a star in the sky,
Yeah.
and to be actually a person who turns a lot of people to the Lord and in the righteousness. So this is, of course, what the verse says further. So I want to be one of these who turn people, who point people to God, who turn people to God. I want to be like, this is another image that I have in my head when I think about myself and the mission God gave me is like a cypress tree, like a finger pointing to the sky. So I really want to direct people to God, to show them another perspective, to show them another reality with everything I'm doing. And yeah, this was the story of Hadassah. And there is another interesting story about the second part of my name, of my pen name. This is the Treu part, because actually Treu is a German word. Yeah, and I lived 15 years in Austria. My husband was an Austrian, so I was connected also to this language, to this nationality. And Treu means faithful or loyal. And this expresses also one of my greatest desires: first, to be faithful to the Lord and to my calling. And second, I want also to help people be faithful to the Lord, especially in suffering and pain. So this is also, I think, another aspect of my calling and mission. And these both names, one German, one Hebrew, show also a little bit my multi-culti personality, so to say, the internationality of
Yeah.
what I'm doing. Yeah, so this is how I came up with this name. And yeah, this is my creator, or let's say my ministry name. Of course, I'm not separating my real personality from this. But I think this was simply what I felt at this time, that the Lord gave me this nudge to start my ministry under a pen name. And this is how actually developed it.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It immediately makes me think of Simon the Peter. Immediately makes me think
Yes,
of that
yes,
switch, and
yes,
I love that. That is just beautiful.
yes,
Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, you write and speak to encourage people to heal, endure, and grow. Where's that
yes.
heartbeat come from?
I think it comes first from my life and the story of my life, and of course what God did in my life. So, unfortunately or fortunately, this is something we can't say. I think both. We can see it unfortunately and fortunately, but my life was really a series of a lot of traumatic events and experiences, through which, of course, the Lord worked in me, in my heart, and He definitely healed a lot of parts of my soul. And of course, He made me grow and helped me endure. And everything the Lord taught me and showed me and worked in and through me, I felt somehow compelled that I need to forward it further, and to help other people actually to find healing, emotional healing, mental healing, spiritual healing, and to help them grow by removing obstacles in their growth process, and also to help them endure. Because there is one verse, I forgot now exactly in which episode, but it uses the phrase not just enduring troubles and hardships, but enduring with joy. And this is, I think, one level higher, because we all say we endure because we don't have other choice. We need to endure things when they come up in their life. But enduring really with joy is something completely different. And this is, of course, the joy of the Lord, and the joy that comes from another perspective. Yes,
Beautiful optimism too, of course, when you look at that,
yes,
turning that
yes,
pain into joy, which of course we'll get into a little bit, but that's also what your book Draw Near
yes.
highlights a lot. Is yeah, we'll definitely talk more about that. Curious, when did you get into writing? When did that
Yes.
first start sparking your, your passion?
Yes, I think the Lord gave me this passion really as a child, because I started writing short stories and poems even when I was in first grade. So this means 7 years old. I could read at 4 years old, so I really was a fast learner. And then I started writing. And I simply loved reading and writing. Yeah, I wrote also a lot of poems during my teenage years, and then there was a big stop, a big break, so to say. But also in my jobs, in my work, I dealt a lot with writing, because I was mainly working as a marketing specialist, project manager, communication specialist. So there was a lot of writing involved. Yes, writing other things, but a lot of writing. I would also say creative writing. But really, the call to write for the Lord came perhaps in the years 2015, 2016. It matured. It took several years to mature. So the Lord really spoke to me through a lot of words, visions, promises. He really imprinted things and brought encouragement in my life that I should go in this direction. I should start in this direction. And in 2017, let's say officially, I started with my bilingual blog on thewaybg.com. Yeah, from then it was simply step by step writing articles for other publications, starting writing poetry again, starting writing books, and it's really amazing how he started really with a simple goal. And I remember how hesitant and how afraid I was actually to start. But I need to say, it when the Lord wants us to start something new and He gives us a task, it's always like this mixture of fear and excitement, but. And of course, we want to know more, or to have some certainty, to have some guarantee. Will it work? Will it not work? But
You only took that much.
this is really the case. He is not giving us this
Yeah.
guarantee, but at least he's always showing the next step. So the first step definitely, and then the next step, the next step, the next step, and
Yeah.
so the journey goes
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Walk by faith, not by sight. That's something that's always stuck
exactly.
with me. Um, I'm curious as well. I'm currently writing my first book. I'm curious
Hmm.
on what is your writing process like? Do you write when you feel like it? Do you kind of have a discipline, kind of,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
how does that work? Like, how's your writing processes work?
Yes, when it comes to poetry, then I rely more on the inspiration, or let's say the heavenly download. This is how I called it. But because poetry surprised me in different situations or circumstances, I can be in the car or walking or even before sleep, and then something comes, a sentence or vision or whatever. This is poetry. But when it comes to the other kind of writing, so I mean really articles, blogs, books, then it's really a discipline and persistency. So I have a writing routine, and I really want to write regularly, persistently. Have usually a writing plan. When it comes for a book, I have a plan. For example, what kind of word volume or how many chapters I can write per month or something like this. And I don't. I'm not afraid of the blank page. I know a lot of writers share this, that they have this block, and instead the page, and they don't know what to write. I need honestly to say that I never experienced this. Perhaps because I'm journaling regularly, so every day, and I'm always keeping a list of all ideas that are coming to me while journaling or while walking or while praying, and I need to say I always have a pretty good idea when I sit to write what at least the topic or the message will be. Of course, I'm praying before my writing sessions. This is absolutely obligatory. So I'm inviting the Lord in the writing process, and even sometimes it's really exciting when I only have a topic, let's say, or I have one sentence or what I want to be the takeaway of an article, let's say, and then I'm really curious how the Lord takes me on a journey and what comes out to bring this message, for example. Or sometimes I have the whole thing already, let's say, in my head. It's different. It's different. But I love this routine. I love this consistency, because I definitely don't see writing as a hobby. So I'm past this point, and I really see this as some very important part of my life. So this writing ministry, yeah.
Well, I love how you said you include God in the writing process. And I think
Yes.
that right there is probably why you never have a blank page. It's
Yeah,
probably
I
why,
guess so.
because there is
Yes.
endless things through scripture, through
Yes.
God's ways, that can always be written about, preached about, talked about,
Absolutely.
all that kind of
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
So I love that so much.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing. Well, before you met Christ as a teenager,
Yes.
you shared that you carried some very heavy seasons. If you're comfortable, what was going on in your heart during those darker years for you?
Yes. Yeah, I think from today's point of view, I was struggling with severe depression. Now I can say this, because yeah, I was sad, I was depressed, and on the top of this, I also had suicidal thoughts, and was searching simply for meaning, for purpose, or I could say even for unconditional love. So, with two words, I didn't see any meaning and purpose in my life, and I didn't want to live further. Yeah, and that at this time I also placed kind of a ultimatum to the universe. I say universe because I didn't know God as I know Him now. I always believed that there is some power or somebody bigger and greater than us, and this was always in me, but I didn't know simply the personal Lord, the Lord Jesus Christ. I didn't know Him. And yeah, I placed this ultimatum, and I said, or let's say, cried out in my thoughts. I said, if there is God, and if God exists, whoever this is, I want Him that He show Himself to me somehow, that I know that there's something bigger, so I can continue to live. Otherwise, I'm threatening to put an end to my life. Threatening, I don't know, the universe, yeah, whatever. So I was praying this perhaps for half a year. So this was quite a long time, yeah. And then suddenly, I think God orchestrated this through a schoolmate who was not in my class, in another class, but nevertheless he talked to me and invited me to go with him to a meeting. I didn't know what kind of meeting, didn't expect anything, and for the first time I found myself in an evangelical Pentecostal church. This was when I was 17 years old, so it was not longer in the communist times, because the communism fell two years ago, before this meeting. Yeah, this was completely new and exhilarating to me. Definitely, I heard that good news for first time, and perhaps I also understood it for first time, most importantly. And at the end of this sermon, for sure, there was a call, if there's somebody who wants to accept Jesus as Savior. and I felt prompted to do this immediately. So I felt this in me, this response by faith. I wanted this, so I came in front, and it happened that that I not only accepted Jesus as my savior, but at the same time there was also a call for baptism in the Holy Spirit. I didn't know what it is, but I responded again in faith. I said, yes, I want this. So it happened everything in one and the same evening, one and the same day. And I just remember this. I remember, and I need to say that up to now in my life, perhaps I never experienced in such intensity, such kind of joy. I need to say even kind of an ecstasy, so kind of an euphoric feeling. This was so strong that it kept me the whole night. I couldn't sleep the whole night. So my whole being was flooded with this joy, with this um, immense ecstasy from the fact that there is God who loves me, and with whom I'm now forever connected and secure. And I was so exhilarated that I couldn't hold this from my sister. We were sleeping in one and the same room, so we're sharing the same room. Since I couldn't sleep, of course, the whole night, I shared this with my sister. Then the next time I brought her also to the church, and she also got saved. Yeah.
I want to pause my conversation with Hadassah for just a moment, because something she shared is sitting on my heart in the best way. Hadassah grew up as a child in a hard place, a difficult home, a world of scarcity and fear. But her whole life changed the day someone reached out to her, and through a local church, she discovered she was loved by God. That is exactly what today's sponsor does every single day. Compassion International exists to release children from poverty in Jesus' name. For just $43 a month, you can sponsor one specific child by name. You'll trade letters and photos. You'll watch them grow. And through their local church, that child receives food, medical care, and education. And most of all, they hear the gospel and discover, just like Hadassah did, that they are seen and that they are loved by Jesus. There's a child waiting right now for someone to say yes. Would you be that person? Go to compassion.com to sponsor a child today and watch how their life changes. That's compassion.com. Now let's get back to my conversation with Hadassah. For someone who's going through a similar dark patch that you are in right now, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would give them the advice I actually, this is not an advice, but simply the encouragement to know that they are not alone, and that surely there is one person who loves them unconditionally. And this is the Lord Jesus Christ, and that they can have, this is possible, they have a real relationship with the living God, and this can change everything. So this can really change everything, as it changed my life.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Well, we talked about that. That's beautiful. Well, let's get into your love and your marriage.
Yes.
So you married the love of your life and moved from Bulgaria to Austria.
Yes.
What did those early years teach you about love and marriage and coming together with another person in your faith journey?
Yes. The whole coming together with my husband was again orchestrated by God, I think, because the probability was really very, very low to meet and perhaps also to marry, because at this time I was working in my hometown Pazarchik as an international project manager. and I was applying for international projects in the education. And I wrote one project, and it got financed. And there were partners from Austria in this project involved, so from many other countries, but also from Austria. And actually, I met him at the first project meeting, and I remembered before the meeting he sent his presentation, and I saw his photo on the presentation, his name, and then this very strange thought, or let's say phrase, came into my mind, and it was seeing my name with his family name. So my name and his family name, and I thought, moment, here's something crazy. This is absolute nonsense, and I dismissed it immediately. So this thing I dismissed immediately.
Yeah, you gotta protect
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah. But
Protect your heart.
this never happened before that. I didn't orchestrate it. This, it just came to my mind. Yeah, nevertheless, we met, and it happened. The meeting was 1 week, and 1 week long, and it happened so that nearly towards the third or the fourth day, I really felt that I'm in love with him. Uh, I'm a person who is not believing at the love at first glance. Never believed. Let's say, but this happened to me, and it turned out it happened to him too, because at the end of these 7 days, during which we had really very intense communication, not only during the meeting but also in the evenings and in the free time. So we admitted that we have feelings, and we started a distant relationship, which was approximately 2 years and a half. So we had this distant relationship. And at the end of these 2 years and a half, we decided to marry, and for me to go to Austria, because I knew I could speak English. I could find much more easily a job in Austria, and in Bulgaria for him it was nearly impossible. So we decided Austria will be our home. Perhaps also a curious detail, the thing was that before I met him, I somehow started to form a mental map of the qualities which I want to have in my future husband. What I didn't want to have was already clear, but what I wanted to have, and yes, and some curious things, like for example, I wanted my husband to be a science fiction fan, because I'm a big science fiction fan. I wanted him to be a good cook, because I couldn't cook, and so stuff like this. And I need to say that Thomas really had all these qualities. We loved science fiction both. This was really one of the topics we love, and we read the same book, so to say. And he was a great cook, so he was a fantastic cook. So this
Sounds like
just,
God.
yeah.
Yeah, sounds
Sounds
like
like God, brought us together.
Yeah.
And then the first years in Austria, because your question was what this taught me or showed me these first years in my marriage. I think this was really God's gift. Now I see it from today's point of view. I think it was God's gift to provide for me a safe, loving environment, having in mind, of course, my family of origin and the problems I had there, to provide for me this safe, loving environment, so I could start the healing process. I could start really to face my traumas, to face my wounds from the past, and to start to heal. This is how I see it now, because the first years were really a bliss. Yeah, one can say there were difficulties because in a new country, new language, but somehow we loved each other so much and enjoyed so much our companies, that I didn't experience this as big problems, really, to learn a new language, or to be in a new environment, so to say. Yeah.
How many languages can you speak, by the way?
4.
4. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
I still struggle
Yes.
with 1. Every now and then,
Everybody has its talents.
that's so impressive. So impressive.
Thank you.
Well, you spoke openly about walking through infertility,
Yes.
anxiety, and panic attacks, and you described
Yes.
that season as one of your deepest times of spiritual formation. How did God meet you in these?
Yes, this was really unforgettable time in many ways. As I said, the first years were bliss, but then things changed because I think first with the death of my husband's mother, they were very close. This I think brought a deep depression into him, and he really changed the way he connected, he related, and it was a very difficult time. And at the same time, we wanted to become parents, but this didn't happen. And this was really a very long journey of, I think, 5 to 7 years. So this infertility journey in the desire to become parents, going to different, treatments, doctors in Austria, in Bulgaria. Even it turned out at a certain point of time, I think stress related, that I'm not having any more eggs. So even tried with a donor egg to become pregnant, and this didn't happen neither. So really the road led to nowhere, so to say. And during this journey, I think surely stress related, I struggled also with generalized anxiety disorder, and there was a period when I developed really severe panic attacks. So I needed to be put on medication for at least half a year. But this is one side of the thing. The other side is that all this pain and unfulfilled desires really pushed me very strong to search God, and not to search, let's say, my ideas or imaginations about God and who God is and what He wants for my life, but really to want to know Him as He is, and what He has for me and what He wants for me or from me, and of course to give Him access to these very very painful parts of my soul, because I can explain this as, I mean, the panic attacks and the depression, the anxiety. I can explain this as a period of complete disintegration or defragmentation of my soul. And then during this time, the Lord started, so to say, to like a building site. He started to pull pieces together, to clean them from the dust, to build them again into something, into some shape. This is how I experienced this healing process, because uh, it was actually a very deep journey of, from one point, self-discovery, because I learned so many things about me and who I am and how God created me to be. The things I like, the things I dislike, and so many other things. And from other point, of course, it was a journey of God discovery, because I mean these two are intertwined. We can't really separate them. And I was learning so much about God, and of course, when for everybody who actually grows in a relationship with God, the more you know Him, the more He remains a mystery. This is also an element we need to say, because there is one part of Him, one huge part of Him, when we think, okay, now I know how He acts, so now I know what He wants, and then suddenly He made something which is completely incomprehensible, or really, as He said, His ways are much higher than our ways, and His thoughts are much higher than our thoughts. But He's God, and we are humans, and we need to know that we have a limited understanding, and His mind is really immeasurable and deep, and His wisdom and His love. But to come back to the questions, that's why I said these years were extremely painful, but also there happened, I think, really the deepest spiritual formation in myself. I think that there happened really this digging into the foundation. So really, the foundation of my faith and walk, the deep foundation was laid with God. And also, this was also a period of change for my husband, because this brought him to start a genuine relationship with the Lord in 2014, because he was raised in a Catholic environment, but this had actually pushed him away from God for many, many reasons. And it was really a topic to between us a lot to push down this idea of the Catholic God that he had, because definitely this God was not the God from the Bible, I need to say, or at least the idea he had about him. And yeah, this was, I think, one of the biggest transformation, that he really came to know the Lord, and gave his heart, and entered this relationship with him. And he also the Lord also started healing in him from his wounds, from his trauma. So this was we individually were going through a healing journey, and also as a family, as a marriage, God also brought healing and a lot of transformation. So this was really amazing time. And I just want to add here what I learned. One of the most important things for me to learn in this time was that. Um, because you mentioned it in the beginning, when we talked about the value of the faith, and you said sometimes we place value of our relationships or our career and whatever more than our faith. And this is, I think, what happened with me, with my desire to become a mother, that at a certain point this became a controlling desire. And a controlling desire, another name we can put, is an idol. So it was really taking up a lot of mental and emotional energy of me. But realizing this and finding freedom from this actually showed me how really God works to take us from self-centeredness, so what I want, mine, to God-centeredness. And this is a painful process, but absolutely needed one. Absolutely needed one. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a process, many processes that God will make sure that we go through, regardless
Yes.
of what it may look like and how painful it may be. Because I think we underestimate that maybe you live up to 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is nothing compared to eternity.
Yes. Yes.
And so he will
Absolutely.
do any corrections and fixes and changes he needs to do internally and externally with us
Yes.
to make sure that we have our pathway to heaven and
Absolutely.
to salvation. So, and I
Yes.
think
Yes.
when it comes to that trade-off, I think it's always worth it.
Absolutely. Yes. It's worth. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, you've written that pain exposes the parts of our hearts so that they can be healed. What did you learn to surrender in those years? I know you kind of touched on it. Is there anything
Yes.
that you learned to just give God the full control over?
Yeah, actually, I think surrender was the key word, and the whole point of the journey, because um, by disposition I'm quite a controlling person. person. And yeah, I want to be in control. I want to control the outcomes, the process. I know everybody wants to control people, circumstances, outcomes. This is simply a
Yeah.
part of us. But I think it was pretty strong in me. And I think especially this struggle with a very strong unfulfilled desire and outcome on which I actually didn't have any control. Doesn't matter what I did or didn't do, I didn't have the control. This actually was a very big instrument in my life to show me and to teach me how to surrender, but not just to surrender once, twice, 10 times, but really daily surrender, continuous surrender, and surrender of everything. Because you said, what did you learn to surrender? And I need to say, really everything. So when I think surrendering relationships, surrendering outcomes, surrendering desires, plans, dreams, my future, my career, my daily anxieties, cares, problems, surrendering my thoughts, my heart, my body. Yeah, really. So all possible aspects of my being, of my life. Of course, this was not, as I said, a one-time event, and there were phases and periods when God showed me simply an area. Okay, this is now what we need. Also surrendering my rights, because I think we often think in this terms, but or even unconsciously, I have the right to this, this, and this. But but actually, the Lord taught us to surrender, to teach us to
Yeah.
surrender also our
Yeah.
rights, and this can be also quite painful, and painful to the ego. Of course, it's not painful to the spirit, but to our flesh, it's painful. And yeah, it was really years of surrender, and I need to say this is a never-ending journey, because also this is typical, yourself, in the Christian journey. We can't every day is a new day, and we can't simply rely because we surrendered yesterday something that we don't need to surrender it today. So we really need to stay in constant communication and fellowship with the Lord, and surrender everything. And for me, surrender was really the path to freedom from the panic attacks, from the anxiety, because I know every time when I surrendered something, this brought me peace. Okay, perhaps not always peace at a great level, but pockets of peace. And with the time, the peace increased and increased and increased. And also, I think peace is one of the indicators that shows if some area of our lives is healed. So when we have peace in this area, I think the healing is already completed. And this is exactly what happened with me with my journey to become a mother. There was a time when the acceptance came fully, the acceptance that I would not be a biological mother. And the peace, so to say, ruled this area, and the freedom also that came with this. And simply, I wanted to show the link between surrender and peace. I think these two go together. So simply, the more we surrender, the more peace we have, and the more God can work through us and in us.
Amen. Amen to that.
Amen.
Well,
Yes.
as you grew in this wisdom of surrender and going through these experiences, what would you tell someone about how to work on that daily surrender?
Yes, I think this happens, of course, in prayer, but we need to not to see now prayer as something complicated, or which has takes a lot of time. Because of course I have my morning time with the Lord, which I spend more in studying prayer, but throughout the day when something comes, the morning time for me helps me when I go through more deep issues with the Lord. So to say, if he's highlighting a certain area, if he shows me something, then I'm journaling and thinking and taking time to reflect. But during the day, when something stresses us, when something makes us angry, when a situation bothers us, this really needs to happen automatically. I would say that instead of worrying, that we simply really surrender this to the Lord in prayer, this care, this worry, this stress, and whatever. And of course, there are some situations which are really ongoing, that are hard, that are painful. And then on such situations, of course, one time is not enough. We really need to stay focused. And when worry comes, when anxiety comes, we say, "Stop! I have surrendered this. I surrender it again." And really practicing. I think this is what really helps. We need to know that it's not because many people think that if they do it once, then it's done, and then it's settled. But
Yeah.
it's not working like this, especially
Yeah.
for persistent problems. It's not working like this. We need to stay persistent in our surrender. If the Lord, for example, has given us a rema, a word, or something that to hold on for this, for special situations, for special problem, also when we surrender this to declare this word and to hold on to this word, I think this is also makes the surrender real, and brings hope, and keeps us steady. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Well, a few years ago, you lost your husband
Mm.
unexpectedly. If you're willing, would you share a little bit about who he was, what he meant to you, and what?
Yeah, this was the heaviest blow in my life up to now, I need to say. This happened in 2020, and it was really completely unexpected. I mean, every death and every loss is unexpected to a certain extent, but especially in my understanding how we grew together, how the Lord blessed us, how especially the last 2 years or 3 years of our marriage were really, I need to say, the happiest years, because we were already, let's say, healed, transformed, and our unity and our intimacy was really reach some higher points, or spiritual, emotional, and mental. We were really one, and I mean, now I see that it was an enormous blessing, and perhaps many people and many marriages and many couples don't come at all to experience such level of intimacy. So that's why I'm trying to comfort myself that this was really a very special gift from the Lord to bring me to to bring us to such a level. But of course, this makes the loss also more profound and more painful, because I know what I have lost, and perhaps which what I will never perhaps I will never experience in my life again. Yeah, and who he was, I already mentioned some facts about him, but he was for sure my best friend, my closest person, and the person who, my biggest fan, I need to say, and my biggest supporter. What I really loved in him was that he really supported me extremely and encouraged me to chase my dreams, the dreams that the Lord have placed in my heart. And he supported me not only by words, but by really by doing. He provided space for me to do what I wanted to do. He provided technical help when I couldn't deal with the stuff in internet, and by starting my blog and stuff like this. He was really extremely proud of me. Like sometimes I thought like a father proud with his children. I mean, he was proud. He was telling everybody what I'm doing, and sharing what I'm doing. And I mean, sometimes I had the feeling he was happier than me, or much more happy than myself, about something that I achieved or something that I was doing. And this was really amazing, because I never saw a person who was experiencing such joy, for myself, and for the things that actually I was doing. I mean, I needed to be joyful, and I was joyful, but he was much more joyful about this, and proud and joyful, and yeah. So I really missed him a lot, and yeah, the whole loss and his death was a part of a little bit mysterious, I need to say, and still a little bit of a mystery, because he died of complications after heart surgery, so surgery complications, but let's say unexplainable surgery complications, because the doctors couldn't tell me why, so what was the reason of his heart failing after the surgery, because it was a bypass surgery, and the bypasses were okay, they were holding, there were no problem with the bypasses, but nevertheless one half of his heart simply stopped working, and he was placed in artificial coma 2 times. Actually, the first time they woke up, the second time they didn't wake him up, and yeah, so I didn't get actually an answer what led to his death and to this complication. I didn't get an answer from the doctors, and of course, I didn't get an answer from God. Why I said of course? Because rarely God gives us an answer to such questions: why somebody needed to die, or what was the reason of their death. So, of course, the first years I searched a lot for answers of these questions, mainly from God. But then I shifted the focus, and decided that it makes no sense to seek, because if the Lord wanted me to know something, He would have already told me or showed me somehow. So obviously this was something to be accepted and to trust him with, And I remember surely one big pivotal day, or let's say, which brought shift in my attitude. And this was, I don't know, perhaps it was something I read or I heard that brought me to this idea, or the Lord spoke me through this. But this was definitely this decision and urge that to stop holding a grudge or to blame God for the death of my husband. So really to never to hold this his death against God, to say why you did this, but to say with a as an accusation, to accuse him, let's say, like this, to stop having this grudge. And I even wrote this down in my journal, that from this day on I will never hold the death of my husband against God, or as a grudge, or as an accusation against him. And this definitely brought a shift in my wrestling with him. Definitely, yeah.
Well, I think you definitely will get your answer when you have your time with God. So
Yes,
when you see
but
him into your life, I think that.
but you know what I just want to say, at this point, I actually don't need an answer at this point, because I'm very firm in my belief currently that God, of course, doesn't make mistakes, and that He knows what He's doing, and that He definitely had reasons that are absolutely unforeseen for me, not just for the life of Thomas, but also for my life, and how my life changed and would impact a lot of people around me. So he definitely had reasons to allow this, and this is, for the moment, this is enough for me to know. I mean, it's enough for me to know that this was his will. This was not a mistake, and his will is always, let's say, good and acceptable. We need really to believe this. Otherwise, we have a problem.
I agree. We're trying to answer something we can't answer, and that's never going to lead you anywhere beneficial for
Yes,
right now.
yes.
Well, thank you for sharing that. In the time that followed, you made the decision to move back to Bulgaria
Yes.
after your husband passed. How did God carry you through that grief and into a brand new chapter in your life?
Yes. This was interesting about Bulgaria, because I felt this again very strong urge to move from Austria in the first month after his death. And God spoke to me with the book of Ruth, and how she, the widow, moved with her um, mother-in-law to from Moab to Israel. And yeah, I mean, this spoke somehow to me very, very strongly. And of course, there are not the exact parallels between the story of Ruth and my story, but it's about widows, it's about major transition, it's about changing locations and moving into another country. And I felt this strong urge to come back to Bulgaria for two reasons. Firstly, because I felt completely alone in Austria. My husband didn't have a big family. Actually, he had only a brother and a father. His father died the previous year, and his brother lived in Vienna, which was quite far away from the city we lived. And also, I had a couple of friends, but let's say no family in the city when I was living, and I felt really alone, and I needed this a change of scenery. It was very difficult for me to stay at the same place and in the same apartment. Yeah, I took this decision, and I need to say this was challenging. This was difficult to organize. I mean, amidst all grief, amidst all pain, to organize this major transition and movement. But the Lord really took care of all the details. When I think about these first months and first year or first year and a half, it's really like a blur for me. I think it's good that I was journaling, and perhaps someone I will come to these journals, perhaps write a book. Who knows? But it's really a blur. I only remember I was living, hour by hour, day by day, and surely things were moving. God sent me help. When I needed people, He sent me people. When I needed transport, He sent me transport. Even most unlikely people, or people who I never thought, for example, that they would help me or something like this. There was provision, but I think the pain was so intense that simply it blurred my mind, it blurred my sensation, and that's why I really don't have so clear memories of this first year and a half. I only know that my family and friends here in Bulgaria, they helped me a lot. They were around me because here I have a large family, a lot of friends. They were around me, and this was the greatest gift, the gift of the human presence. Because I know for people who have passed through such painful experiences, words are not helping most of the time, but what really helps is simply this human presence, even not saying anything, not doing anything, just to feel that there are people around, and that they are with you and staying with you. This really helped. Yeah.
Well, how did you hold genuine joy and ongoing grief in the same
Yes.
hands? What has that taught you about God's comfort?
I thought this was not possible in the first years after my loss. Really, I even wondered if I would at all experience joy because, yeah, simply I was not joyful. I was sad most of the time. I was sorrowful, and my life changed so dramatically that I really thought, okay, it's over. I will not be joyful again. And then I even can't say how it came, but it came gradually, here and there. So small pockets of joy, I would call here and there. So really genuine joy. Um, Perhaps by spending time with my nephew and nieces, this always brings me joy, but not in these first years, but then it started. Or spending time in nature, or I don't know, listening to a song or reading something, and then actually I felt surprised that I was feeling joy, that it was possible to feel joy. And this taught me that, yeah, that it's possible to both to be simultaneously, to feel grief, to feel joy, and that they are not antidotes, that they can coexist. And especially the joy of the Lord, the joy in the Lord, because I think, of course, this is much more than a feeling. This is more an outlook. This is more an attitude. This is more a position of our heart, and this was also a part I needed to relearn, how to have the joy in the Lord, and how to keep my focus on His presence, and on the good of His presence. And yeah, His comfort came in so many ways. His comfort is, so I need to say, from one point universal, but also from one point so personal and unique for each of us. And what is the most sweetest for me was really when His comfort came in unexpected ways, and in ways that, for example, I could never invent or imagine or even ask. And I can give one or two examples about this. For example, this was the fourth death anniversary of my husband, and I had the possibility at this time, for which I was very grateful, to travel with two of my friends to one city at the seaside in Bulgaria. And I had very good memories of this city. I have been there with my husband, and yeah, this was really some kind of escape for me. So I was grateful for this opportunity. And then on this day, I was suddenly getting a message from a schoolmate of mine, whom I didn't talk for, let's say, 15 or 20 years. So really, absolutely unexpected person. And this was a message that she has read my book, first of all, and from the book she knew about Thomas, about the grief anniversary, and she wrote me on this day to express, how she feels about me and how she feels about the book. And I was really stunned, because I will never expected to have such message of comfort for a person who I never talked in 20 years. this was one of the things that showed me that God is really personally involved, especially on this day, to bring me comfort, to bring me hope, and to speak to me. And the next example was really, I want to talk how really God is in the details. This was my 15th anniversaries, and when I have such milestones or anniversary without my husband, it's really very painful. It's not just that anniversaries, but when I celebrate something and he is not there, this also is heavy. And I thought I didn't have any expectations. I even didn't want to celebrate. But what I thought on this day in the morning was that my husband always brought me flowers. He brought me lilies and roses on my birthdays because he knew that these are my favorite flowers. And I was thinking in the morning, there is nobody who will bring me rose and lilies. I will never again get rose and lilies. Exactly this fact made me extremely sad. So about the roses and the lilies. And it happened that in the evening I got roses and lilies, a whole basket, and from my brother-in-law. But the curious thing is, he didn't know this. Actually, nobody knew this, that I never talked to somebody, these are my favorite. He brought me this. So I think it was simply God working through him to go and to buy exactly these flowers and bring me these flowers. So I was really stunned. So this was really from God, this special message for me. Yeah, that he
Yeah,
sees
yeah.
me. He sees me, he loves me, and he really cares for the smallest detail and for the smallest, pain and that I have in my heart.
Love that so much. It shows you
Ah,
how, like you mentioned before, we have a living God. He's
yes,
present in our lives every day.
absolutely.
Even the times we
Absolutely.
feel distant, we feel grief, we feel
Yes.
despair. He's right there with us.
Yes.
I love it. Well, let's get on your book, Draw Near.
Okay.
So
Yes.
your book, Draw Near, reframes 13 painful
Yes.
experiences as the birthplace of blessings. What made you want to write this book?
The story of this book is, let's say, a little bit long because first it started as a seed with my first blog post, which I wrote, and this was a blog post called "About the Losses and the Gains." And this was a post about I wanted to show in this post God as a God of redemption and God of restoration, and how actually doesn't matter how many losses we experience, that the gains which we have in Him or the blessings we have in Him are prevailing, that they're more, that they're eternal. This was this post which I wrote in 2017. And I never thought that I would not only write this post, but somehow also live through this post. By the way, at least in my writing ministry, I need to say that when I write something that the Lord taught me or showed me, a message, or even if I write truth, this is usually a truth that I have lived through, not just preaching or not just interpreting something theoretically. I think the Lord is so to say testing first this message or this truth in my life, if truthful to this, if I have believed this, if I've lived according to this, and then it can already somehow be released, so to say. At least this is how the Lord works in my life. So I didn't know that I would go through many, many painful experiences to prove this, so to say. And in 2021, which was actually, I need to say, really the most painful year because my husband died in 2020, but 2021 was even more painful because the shock had faded and reality hit, so to say, with full force. Then the full concept of the book was developed, and I think this was also a book which I wanted to write somehow, not only for the people who are going through adversity, but first to myself, uh, to biblically interpret suffering, to so to say, to get the meaning and purpose of suffering, and to show myself and to show people that painful experiences, traumatic experiences are definitely not in vain, that they are opportunities to draw near to God, and also the most important thing, that can be catalysts for growth and transformation. They can be. I really need to stress here can be, because there is really one condition, and the condition is that we need to draw near to God and to let Him do His work, to let Him heal, mold us, shape us. Because if we really remain in our pain, distant from Him, we are blocking this healing and this positive change that may come from this. And yeah, I developed then this full concept. I had the idea to mention or to outline 13 experiences painful, like rejection, anxiety, loneliness, depression, disillusionment, and to show the hidden gifts in them. Also, I shared some personal stories, also some biblical teaching, and what I think is very practical. That at the end of each of each chapter, there are two columns where I listed the losses in each experience. So really the concrete losses, because each experience brings us losses and we need to acknowledge these losses if we want to move forward. But also a column at the right side with the potential gains or benefits. And visually, I need to say that always the column of the gains is longer than the losses. And what I noticed also, that most of our losses are temporal, because you also said our lives here are so short, and really the losses are temporal. But most of the gains or the benefits or the blessings that God gives us in through these experiences are eternal. They are really with eternal value, and this is amazing. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the exact premise of your book, which I love so much.
yeah.
Your book actually just came in a
Oh,
day ago,
wonderful.
so I'm so excited to read it. But the premise of your book touches on probably, if not one of, but the most crucial reason that keeps people away from God, which
Yes,
is suffering.
yes,
They often look at suffering going on in the world and they
yeah,
blame God. Well, a
yes,
good God wouldn't let that happen. A good God wouldn't let that happen,
yes,
and
yes,
they blame God rather than, like you said, using it as a catalyst for your
yes,
growth, a catalyst to draw closer to Him, to draw more near to His goodness,
yes,
while there is suffering around. But not even that. Also, now Jesus Christ, the Son of God, came
yes,
down and immersed Himself in the suffering. He to
absolutely.
be a part
Yes,
of the suffering so He can relate
yes,
to you within the suffering.
absolutely,
And your book
absolutely.
walks all over that premise, which is so
Yes,
powerful to me. And I'm just
yeah,
so excited to read it. So thank you so much for
wonderful.
that.
I'm really curious what will you say when you read it.
Well, I'm excited. I think it'll
Yeah,
be nothing but good.
yeah,
Okay. Well, I guess we just touched on that. So I know you probably just touched on this as well, but of the experiences that you've written about in your book, which one was the hardest to put on the page and why?
yeah. I think perhaps the hardest was the disillusionment, because it really disillusionment or disappointment with God. We can use this phrase too, because I think this express the my deepest struggles, and these deepest struggles were actually the underlying struggle was to keep my faith, to keep my trust in God, to keep my love for God, to keep this intimacy and close relationship with Him. And that's why I think this was the most challenging as experience and then as writing. And when I think about disillusionment in faith, I often relate, because I think Job is a great example for this. With Job and Jeremiah, my two favorite biblical heroes, so to say, especially in these last years when I was struggling with grief. Because Job for me is really a great example for this. A person who, the epitome of suffering, who loses everything, but he really stubbornly keeps onto his faith until till the end. And this was such an inspiring example for me to meditate on, to reflect on, and the God talked to me with so many of the messages and verses of this book. This is simply unbelievable. Jeremiah also a big example. For me, the weeping prophet, he struggled with depression. He was disappointed with God. He was disappointed with his ministry. He was rejected. But nevertheless, he wrote some of the most hope-filled chapters and relating to God's promises and visions for the future. I think from Jeremiah 30 to chapter 33. It's really amazing, and I thought a lot about these people and how they had their own struggles and to keep the faith. So I think uh, every believer sooner or later, this is my opinion, every believer sooner or later will have a similar struggle. So really, a moment will come when there will be not just some superficial, but really some deep faith crisis, or that will really challenge all these core beliefs and challenge the foundation actually. But this is good because I think the foundation need to be shaken, need to be tested a little bit if it's stable, and this is good because after some such wrestling with God, what really stays is really stable and unshakable, and this is what matters.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so much growth that you can't
Yes,
achieve unless you go through the struggle and the hardship and
yes,
certain pain. And it's
yes.
very hard to understand in the moment,
Mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm.
when you go through it and when you look back is
Yes,
often when you
when I
can
look
see.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, let's change the tables a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
So you write in 4 different languages, right? Or
No, in
multiple.
two, in two, in two. I write
Okay,
only in two, in English and
2
in
different
Bulgarian.
languages. Okay.
Yes,
And
yes,
your blog is now among the top faith blogs in the world. Did you
yes.
ever imagine your journey would turn into a global ministry of words?
No, I haven't. As I mentioned, I was so nervous and afraid actually in the beginning, and yeah, I guess I had some, ideas or imaginations, but never in the way as it turned out. Really, God amazes me. But uh, what I actually did was really to follow step by step his leading, and when there was an open door for me, to use this open door and simply to follow. There were a lot of days when I just wrote things that came to me. But for example, I never thought, okay, these things will be published someday. I never thought like this. But then a time comes, for example, 1 year later, 2 years later, and for example, the Lord brings things to mind and said, okay, now this is the time, or this is now the opportunity to take this and do this, and so, and it's simply amazing. But I need to say also, because if this sounds very, how to say, rosy, it's not rosy, it's not so optimistic, because this journey is also hard. I mean, the writing journey, or to have a ministry is also hard. It's also connected with a lot of rejection, with a lot of disappointment, with a lot of closed doors. And I think one of the hardest things is that we don't see the immediate result or the outcome. We really don't know what impact. In very rare cases, sometimes God give us glimpses here and there, but we don't know how our words actually impact people, or what we are doing really yeah, brings fruit. Of surely it will bring fruit, but we don't have this, we don't have it in our hands to touch it, or to because for me the fruit is transformed lives. I mean, I don't measure the fruit by other indicators, which are good. They are good, the metrics we all want to have. But I think what really matters is people's heart, and how God uses our words to bring people to Him, or to change their thinking, to change their hearts, and this is what actually as writers we don't really see, and this can be sometimes very discouraging, because yeah. It's really a blessing when we read a nice review, or somebody sent us an email back and said, okay, your book touched me, or your blog spoke to me, but this doesn't happen often, and yeah, it can be disappointing, it can be harsh. And I learned simply that what really matters in this journey is following the Lord's lead, be persistent, be faithful to what He has shown or given, and also be flexible to change directions. Because I also learned, if something has worked, or it started as good and has worked for a certain period of time, it doesn't mean, because we always search for formulas and routines, but it doesn't mean that this will always be this way. We simply need to be flexible and follow the Lord, and be open for things He's showing or changing or leading, and simply not be afraid, and do the things scared. I know this is a slogan we hear often, but especially in this writing stuff, simply do the things scared. Do it, simply do it. It will be not perfect, but it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
As long as the Lord is in this is what matters. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's another way He tests our faith as well.
Yes.
He's,
Yes.
well, you're not getting the
Absolutely.
outcomes, you're not getting the followers, you're not getting the
Yes. Yes.
purchases. Are you still going to keep
Yes.
writing for my kingdom?
Yes, yes,
Because
exactly.
when you're doing anything for His kingdom, it's
Yeah,
never gain. It's
this is the
never.
testing of motivation. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And actually, I'm very, now grateful, more and more grateful, especially for not for my so-called successes or achievements, but I'm really grateful, especially for these periods when I felt extremely discouraged. When, for example, as you said, there were no less purchases, or a few comments, or nobody, or less visitors, or whatever, and I felt very discouraged if this makes sense to continue. But I'm grateful, especially for these moments, because these were the moments of my honest conversation with the Lord, and with testing of my heart, why I'm doing this, why I continue, and what is really my real motivation. One, and the Lord was always faithful to bring me back to the right motivation, to bring me back to the right calling, and to infuse me with new enthusiasm, with new motivation, with new strength to continue. And these moments are actually invaluable. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And even for the people who may never experience the success that maybe their heart longs for,
Yeah,
I hope that they can realize that the main goal of this life is to get towards the end and to look at Jesus and you hear, well done, good and faithful servant.
absolutely, absolutely.
That is your goal. And,
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
else on the world should be a goal.
Yes, yes.
That's
Doesn't matter what we are doing. Doesn't matter in our, because I mean everybody has a mission. Everybody has a calling. I mean, I'm admiring the mothers who are taking care of this child. The parent. I think the parenting calling is an awesome calling. I mean, this is one of the hardest callings actually, and people who are doing their jobs and everything. I mean, everything is sacred and holy to the Lord, and if we stay faithful to what He has called us, this is the most important thing. It's really funny how we people think what is success and what matters, and how we see the metrics and say, okay, I succeeded here, or I failed here, and then suddenly it turned that what we thought that we failed is actually not a failure at all in the Lord's eyes, and the other way around, that our successes are really futile and just so to say dust in the wind. So like this. So we really need to keep our eyes firm and fixed on our highest mission, to be faithful servants of the Lord and to work for His kingdom. And He's faithful to provide for us. This is not a problem. He always will provide for us.
well, you're a poet as well as an author.
Yes.
What can poetry say about God and suffering that ordinary writing, I guess, can.
Yeah, I think poetry is touching the soul in another way because it expresses emotions in different way. It, so to say, is a more direct way to express emotion and to perhaps also to connect with God, to enable this connection to God. Because I just want to give an example. At least there for me, this is my favorite book in the Bible. One of my favorites, the Psalms, and we know that the Psalms are poetry. This is Hebrew poetry, and I know a lot of people can relate. It's one thing they may not read the other books, so they say the other books are too difficult for me to read, but they read the Psalms, and the Psalms bring them directly in God's presence. They pray with the Psalms and things, and this is poetry, and I don't know. I think that somehow, as I said, poetry is simply a direct way to connect hearts, emotions, to express and to connect, and to perhaps also to bring people really directly in God's presence. I think poetry and music, because music is also another way that connects us, so to say, immediately. Yeah.
And people all are different, and some relate more
Yes.
to regular writing with books, and some people relate more to
Yes.
poetry, and they can
Yes.
feel, like you said, God's presence more through it.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
that's so cool. Well, for the creators and writers that are listening right now, many of them here probably on ActsSocial, what would you
Yes.
say to the one just starting to use their voice for the kingdom?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is really not to let fear stop them. So fear and anxiety and fear of the unknown and fear of failure are the two main fears that work in the beginning strongly. But we need to know them, and we need to push through them, and really to continue and to follow God, and to know that he always has the next step. Okay, we may not see where the road leads, but if we are faithful just to make one step after another, it is enough. It is simply enough. And to decide really in their hearts to stay passionate and to stay committed, to stay persistent. So this is, I think, an important decision we need to make, this dedication, so every day. And to be prepared to work hard, because the fact that God has given us a mission and that He is with us doesn't mean that we will not work hard. No, work is present. We need to do our part, so to say. Yeah, really, the outcomes are in God's hands, and He is also helping us, giving us ideas, strengthening us in body, in soul, in our emotions, in our imaginations, in creativity. But we need also to put work in this. So I would say, yeah, be inspired and be happy and be joyful that you are on a mission with God, with the Creator Himself, and don't be afraid to go on this journey.
And I would add a little caveat and say, add God into whatever writing process, video process that you are
Yes,
doing. So I think
absolutely.
that was beautifully said earlier. I love that. Love that so
Yes,
much. Well, now that we're on the topic of ActsSocial, I'm curious on what your thoughts are with ActsSocial, and what do you see for the future of our digital world through social media, and kind of what ActsSocial is trying to do to be different and to help out
yes.
children.
Yeah, I think the ActsSocial is really a unique platform, so definitely unique in this that so to say, removes the worldly elements and is really focused on providing a platform for Christian minded people to communicate, to exchange, to cooperate. And I think this is really a wonderful, wonderful idea. I'm really curious how it will develop in the future. So surely there are ways that I can't think now, but surely there are more ways how God can even bring this to a greater depth, or to a greater involvement of more people. So about the digital world and the technologies and the artificial intelligence currently, I see the all these developments, let's say, with caution, so to say, and I'm not so super enthusiastic about this because I think it's a double-edged sword. But this is with all kind of technology. It's just a tool, and we need to be very wise. Simply, we need wisdom and discernment how to use this tool wisely and for God's kingdom and also for God's glory. Not to turn it into an idol, or not to misuse it for something that it's not meant to, so to say. This is, I think, the biggest danger, but it is also the danger with every new technology or tool. And yeah, for myself, I have decided that I'm using from time to time artificial intelligence more in the capacity of a virtual assistant, or for research, or for graphics, or for stuff like this. But I have personally decided for myself that I would never use artificial intelligence to write my things that I write. This I will never do. I think this is very precious for me, and this gift from the Lord, and I don't want to misuse, so to say, something which is given for another purpose. Yeah, and as I said, the Christians, and the other thing what I said, I think Christians, believers, hopefully should be also the leading thought force who can show the way how to discern and how to deal and how to use artificial intelligence. I think this is the role the church can have and hopefully will have. And we need all this training process, how to use it and how to discern how to use it, all these technologies. Yeah,
Yeah, I think you're spot on with it is a double-edged sword. Technology,
yeah,
AI, all of it together.
yeah.
It is how you use it.
Yes.
You can't stop people from using technology. You
No,
can't stop
no,
people from getting on social media.
no.
But what you can do is you can provide a way that they can use it for good.
Yes.
And I think a big thing that we deal with current technology is it pushes great content out to you. It'll push biblical
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
author
mm-hmm.
posts like you and
Yes,
wonderful content that will benefit you and enhance your life.
yes, yes,
But with oftentimes with the mainstream, it also will push you everything. So it'll push you stuff
yes,
that doesn't benefit your
yes,
life. It'll push you stuff
yes,
that maybe you shouldn't be looking at. And so almost I think ActsSocial's mission was, well, let's get rid of as many temptations as
mm-hmm,
we can for the
mm-hmm,
children of God.
mm-hmm.
For example, why you wouldn't have a drug addict walk into a room full of drugs, or you wouldn't
Yes,
have an alcoholic walk into a bar full of
yeah,
alcohol,
yeah,
right? Because the
yeah,
temptations are there and they're more likely
yes,
to make a bad decision. And it's the same thing with social media. You don't want to go into a platform that you know you're going to get pushed some
mm-hmm,
sort of temptation that you can't control. It's just
yes,
on your
yes,
main feed, and
yes,
whatever gets thrown your way gets
yes,
thrown your way. And so that was just, of course, that mission of ActsSocial. Well,
yes,
let's get rid of as many temptations as we can, and create a digital sanctuary, so you will, for
yes.
the children
I
of
love
God.
this. Yeah, digital
Yeah.
sanctuary. Love this phrase.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said temptations, and I would also say even if they are not temptations, they are distractions, because we are extremely easily distracted. So this is what social media mainly does. Okay, and when you talked, I had this image and this phrase of the water source with bitter and sweet water. So we don't want a water spring from which comes bitter and sweet. We want just the sweet water. And this is, yeah, really great what you are doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for giving your opinion on that. I appreciate that a lot. Well, let's end off here with a few more questions, and we will wrap it up. So,
Okay.
what are one or two practical habits that have helped you draw near to God when you can barely feel Him or when you feel distant? from?
Yes. One for sure is journaling. Simply, it works for me. I'm doing this, I think, more than 10 years, and this is a kind of practice that helps me, express what I'm feeling, express my thoughts, reflect, and even, especially in the cases when I feel distance from God, it helps me really to write down how I feel and my questions and my cries out to Him. This really helps me. And the other what helps me is listening to worship music. So not all kind of worship music, but for example, some that resonates with my mood with the moment. If I'm sad or I'm crying, where are you God and why, and things, there are such kind of songs that are really resonating with this. This again helped me express my pain, my longing, and helps me actually in these ways draw near to him and search for him and invite him somehow to connect with me. I always invite him to connect me, even when I don't feel and I'm angry. I always invite him to, I say I always invite him to connect. But we all know that our feelings are not a good indicator if God is near or not near. So we don't need to trust this. But these two practices help me a lot. And of course, I need to say prayer, but prayer for me is not a formula, and prayer for me sometimes can be just crying and or just uttering one word. This is also a prayer. So prayer in all possible forms and ways is also, of course, the direct way to connect with God. Yeah.
Well, if someone is listening to this and is walking through a very dark valley of their
Mhm.
life today, what is the one thing you would want them to take from this podcast?
Oh, this will be difficult. If it's one thing that I should take from this podcast, yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, I need to say that perhaps the most important thing to remember is that although it doesn't feel this way, God is near, God is with them, and that this what they experience and feel at this very very intense moment is not a moment that they will stay forever. That this is something which will pass by, and there will come a time that they can really heal and really grow and really experience more joy, more peace, and more wholeness. I think what happens why people are sometimes not moving from this period of intense pain and struggling is because perhaps they think this is the way it will be and they feel stuck in this. But I think for me personally, this is very important to remember. This is a temporal thing. This is just a phase of extreme intensity, phase of extreme pain. Yes, I know this, but it is not forever, and God is near, and God is close to the brokenhearted. He is near, He is with them, He is for them, and He for sure already works ways and thinks how to orchestrate a plan for healing, redemption, and restoration.
Well, Hadassah, where can people find you, your books, and your community, and how can our listeners best support your work and what you're currently doing?
People can connect with me on my blog on thewaybg.com, and they can find me on social media, of course, on ActsSocial too. They can find me with the handles on the way BG and with the handle Hadassah Treu on nearly all social media, and my books are available on Amazon and on all online retailers, the main online retailers. And I think the best way actually people can support me and stay in contact with me is really if they join my community. Then we can stay in regular contact. I'm sending twice per month my newsletters where I'm handpicking my new content, best content, recommendation for resources and all possible stuff, news, events, and things like this. And I really love this email communication much more than I would say. Okay, social media has its let's say value too, but I think this is a way to go into deeper contact via the emails with people. So if they want to support me and stay in contact with me, they can join my newsletter, and they can do this on the blog on the way bg.com. There is a form there.
Wonderful. And I, of course, will leave all those links in the description
Yes.
as well. So you guys can access them there. Well, Hadassah Treu, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. And I pray that this touches the right people and impacts those that it needs to impact. I'm so grateful for your light and your energy, and just so grateful to have your presence on this world, and grateful that God has used you and your experiences to help so many other people as well. So thank you
Thank you so much. Thank you. This was really a joy and pleasure for me to be here to talk to you, and to I hope really reach people with God's love and hope and encouragement. This is really the most important thing that gives me also a sense of accomplishment, purpose, satisfaction, and I'm so thankful to the Lord for this. Yeah.
Well, hopefully one day we will absolutely have you back on here in the future as well.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Ryan.
Well, thank you so much. Well, I love you so much, guys. Bye-bye.